What's up, guys? Coach Caglione here. This is part 2 in the series here for our podcast. So if you missed part 1, definitely backtrack. Maybe listen to part 1 first, so you can kind of get like the full picture. So if you just started listening and it's your first time, definitely check out part 1 of the series first. You can always kind of go back, but if not, sit back, enjoy part 2, and thanks for watching, and enjoy the show. Kind of sandwiched in the middle of our 5 values is integrity. And it's one of those things where some people are like, oh, integrity is kind of this cliche thing, and everyone talks about it, and da-da-da. But I think it's important. And one of the reasons that it's in the middle of our 5 values, it's the middle one, is that I feel like integrity is kind of the glue that sticks everything together. Without integrity, you have nothing. So integrity to me is being able to uphold the values that you have for yourself. So it doesn't necessarily mean, integrity could be positive or negative depending on like what your values are. But you're basically like, you do what you say what you do, you're very clear in that, and I think the more integrity you have, the more consistency you have with adhering to your values and adhering to like your philosophy and things like that. So the more integrity you have, going back to what we said before with like purpose and stuff, I think you're going to be able to go to sleep with your head, you're going to be able to go to sleep easier at night and hold your head high because you're staying true to you. Another thing that I learned from Mark Bell is a part of knowing who you are is knowing who you're not. So kind of being true to you and being true to your heart. Again, sounds cliche, but I think that's so important. So I think it's really important that when it comes to integrity, that we try to be true to who we are. We try to be as transparent as possible, and it's going to be obviously some things you're not going to share, like you're not going to share your social security number and things like that. But I think it's really important to try to be show people like who you are. One of the things that I kind of always go back and forth with, like if I had to do things over again, would I have my name in the gym title? But one thing I am proud of, I've always put myself out there, and being someone who's kind of naturally introverted, even though it may not seem like that, I'm a little bit more kind of extroverted when I'm involved in a situation where I'm kind of more the expert. But barring squats and lifting weights, like I'm definitely a lot more shy and introverted, and like I'm not like kind of be somebody that's maybe going to be overly social at a party, especially if it's not like a bunch of lifters and things like that. So to me, it's been very hard to kind of put myself out there, but I try to do the best job I can of sharing my story with people and kind of showing people like it's not just a gym, it's not just a logo, it's not just like there's a person behind it as well. Where sometimes some of these other pages you might not even know who's running it. I try to put myself out there and be, like I said, as transparent as possible whenever I can, and kind of showcase my story and why I do what I do. So that to me is what integrity is all about, and I think that's big. But integrity can be different for everyone, but I think again it comes down to the consistency of adhering to your values, which leads me to my next point, which is consistency. And consistency probably, it might be the most important thing when it comes to success. Because if you like work really hard for one day, you can have a lot of intensity, but it's not going to like last very long. It's not going to allow you to kind of get to that next step. So you could do German volume training, for example, and do 10 sets of 10 today. But if you're so shot that you can't train for a week or whatever, you're not going to have a lot of consistency. It's not going to be very sustainable. So everything that we do at Caglione Strength, while I don't think that we're like in terms of the fitness world, I don't think we're overly conservative with our programming or the risks we take. But I would say in the powerlifting world right now, we are probably more on the lower end of when it comes to volume and frequency and that side. I guess how hard, for lack of a better term, how hard the program is, and the reason being. So like on one token, we're not just sitting around and foam rolling and doing corrective exercise all day, but on the other side of the coin, we're not going to be squatting every day, and maybe, it's really rare to see, like, I'm not going to I rarely program somebody of like, say like, like something like a Chico program, for example, might have someone squatting and benching 4 times a week. To me, that's not really sustainable, and yes, it may work very well for a lot of people, but again, I'm not like working with like the best of the best, like in the IPF and things like that. And for me, my mindset is always not just about this training cycle, but how can we string 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 training cycles together? How can we train for the next 5 years, the next 10 years? And again, while I am a young coach, I do feel like I have a lot of experience being over 12 years in the game myself. I have a lot of miles on me. I started training, in my opinion, very hard as a 10th grader in high school, and I started competing at 18 years old. So while I may be young in chronological age, I have a lot of experience, and I think some of these younger coaches that may even be smarter than me, may even have more technical knowledge and better at peer designing their programs. They don't have the miles that I do and the experience. They haven't worked with as many people that I do, and I think that kind of, and it's not to say it like it's better or worse. I just think for me, I'm always going to err on the side of more toward the minimal effective dose, the minimum effective volume versus maximum recoverable volume. And sure, there's an optimal range there, but I'm always going to probably err on the side of doing a little bit less because I want people to have more sustainability in their life. So consistency, like I said, it's going to be one of the most important things. One of the famous quotes we had from Stan Efferding. Stan Efferding did a seminar. He basically said that you need consistency and intensity. And that always stuck with us. We even had a white rhino. We have a white T-shirt with the quote on it. You need to work hard, but you need to work hard for a long period of time. So consistency is always going to beat everything else. Jim Wendler also has a saying like, discipline is discipline over motivation. So discipline always beats motivation. If you form better habits and form better processes for training, that's going to allow you to be successful. So like whatever is going to get you to that next 5 pounds is going to allow you to hit that 500-pound squat, that 700-pound squat, etc. So that consistency is so important. And consistency, like I said, might be the most important aspect when it comes to training, when it comes to diet, when it comes to using myself as an example. I've lost over 100 pounds of body weight and kept it off. That was a 2-year process for me. And 2 years of very, very strict adherence, in my opinion. And it's not like I wasn't trying before it, and we'll talk about in a future episode about my, ups and downs of dieting and why I decided to lose weight. But for myself in powerlifting, in one of our episode on goal setting, I talked about how I went from a 375 squat to a 705 squat in sleeves, and that was a 10-year process. So it's like you need to be in this for the long haul. So you want to think of more like a marathon, not a sprint. You don't want to like kind of burn out. You want to kind of fizzle out. Now some people may argue with this, but I love powerlifting and I love lifting weights. I want to do this for a long time. I don't want to do this for like 2 years and be a flash in the pan. I rather take my time and enjoy the process, enjoy the ride. Because I know a lot of people, they do all this crazy programs and they get burnt out and they're out of the sport, they get hurt or whatever the case may be. And even with smart programming, I will say this, because especially I've been probably overly critical of people getting injured and things like that. And of course, I tweaked my arm, my last meet. So, even with smart programming, you can get hurt. But I think if you err on the side of, like I said, more of the minimal effective dose and you focus more on consistency and longevity, your risks are going to be minimized. And even, a couple of weeks after my meet personally, my kind of arm is back to 100%. If I was not as smart, I could have really hurt myself. So bumps and bruises are going to happen, but we want to kind of minimize those. So we always think about health and longevity. So we'll kind of close out with the consistency thing. Everything has a cost and a benefit to it. So you want to kind of try to pick exercises and pick styles of programming that have a high benefit with a lower cost. Or maybe it's a moderate benefit and a low cost. That might be fine too. But if something has a high benefit and a high cost, like you're going to be playing with fire a little bit, and you might do well, or you might blow something off, and you might be have a, hopefully not, but you could have a career-ending injury too. So you have to kind of weigh the pros and the cons, the risks and the benefit, the cost of what you do. Everything has a cost and everything has a benefit. So you want to try to think about things that minimize the cost and you have a good benefit. And sometimes you got to pick and choose. And maybe closer to a meet, maybe you do things that are a little bit. Maybe you have things that are a little bit higher risk going into a meet because you want to really perform at a high level. But if you don't have anything kind of coming up, you should also kind of consider that too. So it kind of goes back to your goals, and everything kind of should always go back to the individual and what their goals are and what the reason is behind their goal. So I think that'll also help drive a lot of these things in the consistency. So you should definitely check out our episode on goal setting. We'll put some links in the description. Elvis has been great on that. Okay, last one, number 5, okay, is energy. So, again, not to get too woo-woo or wishy-washy or hippie or anything like that, but I really kind of, that kind of karma, law of attraction, all this stuff, I think there's some truth to a lot of these things. When you put something out in the universe, sometimes magical things can happen, whether that be a goal, whether that be, just being nice to people and stuff like that. I definitely have noticed that with myself. And obviously sometimes bad things happen to good people, but in general, I really believe you put out what you get back, what you put out, and sometimes even you'll get back tenfold what you put out. So when it comes to energy, I think it's really important that you always bring positive energy to the table. This kind of comes back to, not everyone is like this, but especially in the age of social media, when everyone wants significance and everyone wants recognition and everyone wants attention, it's me, 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 me. Those people are kind of like energy vampires and energy parasites, and they don't always give out. They're like, they want energy for them, but they're kind of take away energy from other people. So I think it's important that we kind of give and take. And when you give, also, I think it's important maybe not to expect, maybe expect very little or expect nothing in return, and just do it for the sake of doing it. But that starts with kind of the energy that you put out and the vibe you put out. Just it takes. I've always noticed it's a lot easier to be happy than it is to kind of be a grump and be. It takes a lot more effort. It takes more muscles to be sad and to be angry and all this stuff. So sometimes it's better to like kind of decompress and just kind of let it go. A lot of this stuff with yoga and meditation and things can help, but in general, I think it's really important that we try to always focus on the positive. Success breeds success, and positivity will breed positivity. So the more we can kind of focus on the positive, the more we can kind of bring positive energy to our groups and the people we're around, our family, our friends, our training partners, I think that's always going to be important. And one of the things I've been learning a lot in improv is also, you want to kind of like yes and people. You want to accept and add to what they say. I was watching a live stream a couple weeks ago. I won't say what it was, but the two commentators were like kind of like not on the same page. They were almost kind of arguing with each other, and they were kind of like one of the people wanted to kind of one up the other person and said this isn't true, whatever. It was like I was like uncomfortable like listening to it. Just for example, was something that's kind of stuck in my head. But in general, and I've been trying to do this a better job because I tend to be a little bit of a control freak. I understand that, and I tend to micromanage a little bit, so I've been trying not to do that as much. So with my staff and with our team, you always want to try to make your partner or your staff or whatever, the people you're around, you want to try and make them look good. So part of that is accepting and adding. So you don't want to kind of, cut someone down. We all know that kind of one-up person. Like no one likes that guy. Add to the conversation, add to what they're saying. Make them look good, make the people around you look good, and you're going to, I think, be a lot more successful. So bringing positive energy to your workplace, to your training partners, to your family, I think is really important. And obviously there's some times where maybe you have to have some hard conversations and things like that, but that's here nor there. But there's always a positive and there's always a respectful way to do it, even if those are kind of hard conversations. But I think you always try to do it in the most positive way possible. And sometimes, for the coaches out there, this is a little bit of a tip as well. Something called like a feedback sandwich. Just worth mentioning because we're talking about positivity. If maybe there's a glaring problem or like a negative thing, and maybe you have a client or a teammate that's maybe a little sensitive or whatever, you can always start with something positive. So tell them something they did well, address the issue, let them know what they did wrong and how they can correct it, and then kind of finish off with something positive. So you might be like, Johnny, you did a really great job with your walkout. It was very consistent. You got your back tight and all this stuff. I did notice that you kind of collapsed a little bit in the bottom. Your knees came in a little bit, so I need you to kind of shove your knees out, maybe screw your feet in the ground a little bit more. But the speed looked great. You did a really good job setting up and walking it out. Let's do better on the next time. So that's just like, but I could just be like, your knees came in, that sucked, that was high, whatever. Just try and do it in a more positive way. And there are some times where like some people need a kick in the butt, and there are some times people need a pat in the back, but again, it's our belief that you bring positive energy to the table. Period. And again, with all these things, I do not have 100% adherence to them, but it's always in the back of my head. And if I slip up, I try to get better every day. So Again, I want to thank Matt Reynolds for inspiring this podcast. I think it's been even if no one listens to it, it's been very helpful for me to kind of unpack and unload some of this stuff because I haven't thought about it in a while. And lastly, the hashtag of the G Team. And we kind of talked about this a little bit before and throughout this episode. One thing that if I can kind of do something different, maybe remove my name from the business or whatever, because it's not about me. It's not about Gaglione. But it is about the team. And it sounds cliche, and I'm sure you've all heard this before, but together everyone achieves more. And being someone who's introverted and being someone that didn't really always feel like I belonged to a group, growing up in like high school, I was kind of like, with some of the nerdy people and some of the jocks and some of the band people. I never really felt like I had a home and belonged. So the fact that I have some amazing teammates and some people that I could call my friends, and even my family's involved with the gym, that's really special to me. Like I said, I couldn't do all this without them. So I just want to, thank everyone that's been a part of Gaglione Strength and the G Team and our both distance and remotely and in person and past and future and present. Because even with the good and the bad, it's, all those experiences have kind of made me the man I am today and helped build up the team and the culture and the environment to what it is today. And it's what Powerlifting for the People is all about. We're helping build a stronger community, one person at a time, helping expose people to powerlifting and this great sport and exposing people to the benefits of strength. So that's what the team is all about. It's about helping others. It's about giving back. It's about getting people involved and showing them that they can do more and be more, like my buddy Mark Bell says. All that stuff is so important, and a stronger person is just a better person. There's a lot more that you can overcome. There's a lot more you can do in your everyday life. You can apply these lessons that you learn in the gym. So that's what the team is all about. There's no one person that's bigger than the team itself. So to me, it's always about what's going to be best for the team as a whole. And there are times, like there's some equipment that I've gotten rid of that I personally would like to use. But I got rid of it because it wasn't really, it was taking up space for other things that the team could be using. Like, there's a giant cambered bar I love. That's like my favorite bar for good mornings. We don't have it anymore, We got rid of a spider bar, and instead we got another safety squat bar, which would be just a better fit for our team as a whole. It was sad to see it go, but those were some decisions I had to make. Everything that, there's some things, something like simple, like, investing several $1,000s in a belt squat for the team. That kind of hurt my bank account a little bit, especially at the time, but I knew it was going to be it's been one of the best investments we've made for the team. And we've been getting a lot of use out of it. So all the decisions that we make, it ultimately comes kind of back to the team. And that's kind of really just a little bit about our values and stuff. I'll kind of like leave off one other things that we kind of have. Well, maybe we can talk about this another time. We also have some other things, like we have Arnold's rules up on our wall, and we also have the saying of lead the front. We have some other kind of cool things throughout the gym, just for kind of mental things. But that's kind of our values in a nutshell, because I think this probably went a little bit longer than expected, but it was something that was very important to me. I hope this is important to you. So some takeaways and things for this episode. I think it's really important that whether you're a coach, business owner, just someone who wants to become a better person, that you kind of identify some values and some things for yourself, because that's going to help guide your decision-making process. And if you can make decisions more clearly and more decisively, that's going to lower your stress and anxiety level. And one of the things, as someone who deals with a lot of stress and anxiety throughout my life, I could always kind of go back to these words and kind of ask myself, am I doing the right thing? Am I sticking to me? And is this going to be the best thing for my team? And I can kind of go down the list and check off those boxes, and that allows me to, and if I can kind of nod my head and say, yeah, this is going to be a good call. I think this is a good decision for us. And I always ask myself, how is this going to affect the team moving forward? So I'm excited. I was happy with the episode. I hope this is one of those things. I was kind of joking with Elvis before. Like, I feel like the more important episodes get like the least amount of views, but I hope this one gets more listens than not. I think it's really important, and I hope it reaches some people, and I hope it helps some people, even if it helps one person. get better, then it's a win for me. So thank you guys for watching. This has been another edition of the Powerlifting for the People podcast. If you like the podcast, please give us a 5-star review and subscribe on iTunes. It helps other people find us. We want to help spread the word of strength. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Until next time, stay strong, and we'll see you soon.